All right, my final set of predictions, the heavyweight class. And I'm glad I waited to this one because we didn't know in the preseason that Gable Steveson was going to be wrestling. But now we know that the Olympic champion, the two-time NCAA champion, Gable Steveson, is wrestling this year for Minnesota. So that obviously has a huge impact on these predictions. So glad I ended up waiting on this. So I'm going to go over my full 8 All-American predictions, my national champion predictions, the round of 12. I'm going to let you know who is new to this weight class, who has departed this weight class, and a couple other nuggets along the way. So first, starting with who did this weight class lose? Well, it lost Lucas Davison, who was in the NCAA finals, Nathan Taylor from Lehigh, he is out with injury, and Zach Elam from Missouri. Those guys are all out. And I'm wondering if we're going to see Younger Bastida continue to wrestle this year. I don't know. I feel like that's up in the air. So he could be someone that ends up taking a medical red shirt. That's a bit of an unknown at this point. Well, we haven't seen Younger. We know he's been dealing with an injury. So we'll see on that. Now the weight gains some real talent. Of course, re-entering this weight class, Gable Steveson. For my money, the greatest heavyweight I've ever watched wrestle. He's back in the mix at 285. Ben Keeter, top prospect for the Iowa Hawkeyes. He redshirted last year. Now he's into the lineup, and there's high expectations for Ben. He's a junior world champ, 4-time undefeated Iowa State champ, among other accolades. This guy is really, really good. Jimmy Mullen from Virginia Tech. He was a good recruit for the Hokies. And then Lance Runyon from UNI. This guy started his career at like 165. Now he's a heavyweight. Pretty unbelievable. So those are the new faces that are entering the heavyweight division. Now, I'm going to start with my round of 12, and I always do round of 12 because this is it's a huge accomplishment to make it to this point. And while you don't get big points for it and you don't end up on the podium, it's still a big deal. And there's just a lot of names at these weight classes, so I like to give a little more shine to 12 wrestlers instead of 8. So my round of 12, Rutgers Yaroslav Slavakuski. He was on the podium last year, and he was kind of a surprise All-American a year ago. He beat Bastida, had some other nice wins, but I don't know if we're going to see him repeat. I think the weight is just a little bit tougher than it was last year, so I think he falls just outside of the round of 12. Lehigh's Owen Treffin. He's been ranked around the top 10 much of his career. He transferred from NC State to Lehigh. Of course, NC State has Isaac Trumbull, leaving Treffin without a starting job. And then with Nathan Taylor being out for the year with injury, pretty seamless transition for Treffin to go to Lehigh. And I think he's going to do a good job there. Coach Zach Ray and company do a really good job developing their heavyweights. So I think this is going to be a great fit for Owen Treffin. Dayton Pitzer from Pitt. This guy's really good. He's a smaller heavyweight, pretty active, really good from the top position. I think he's a definite All-American contender, but I think he finishes just outside alongside another ACC wrestler, Jim Mullen from Virginia Tech. Mullen in a roster battle to keep that spot versus Hunter Katka. That can sometimes help wrestlers as they're trying to get through their season, just having that incentive of trying to keep your job. Could be good for Jim, but I think he falls just outside of All-American status. Now, 8th place, I've got Ben Keeter of Iowa. I think he gets on the podium. It's a really crowded weight class. I think for a couple things that could get Ben a little higher, if his output increased a little bit and he was a little more active and used his athleticism a little bit more. This guy's got the speed and he's got great technique. He's slick. This is a guy who won a loaded U20 World Championship. If he can get in more exchanges, I think that's going to favor Ben Keeter. But if he plays kind of more of a traditional heavyweight hand fight type of tactic, I think we see him fall into this 8th place round of 12 type of category because there's a lot of big guys at this weight class and he's not using his speed and athleticism. It could be tough for him, but that said, I still have Ben Keeter finishing on the podium, 8th place. In 7th place, Colton Schultz of Arizona State. Now he's been as high as 2nd in the NCAA, losing to Gable Steveson in the NCAA finals in 2022. But I haven't seen that version of Colton back, and really nothing I saw at Cliff Keen Las Vegas really changed that for me, seeing him lose to Isaac Trumbull, who he had previously beaten. So I have Schultz finishing his career on the podium. He's such a good hand fighter. He moves guys around. They have a hard time staying in the middle of the mat with him. When you shoot on him, he is very, very hard to score on. Very powerful hips. He gets his legs back, and he's able to spin around and get takedowns. He can ride really well. Very complete wrestler, but I think I have him finishing on the podium again, 7th place. Higher is definitely possible if he can somehow regain that magic he had in 2022, where he beat Mason Paris, he beat Jordan Wood to make the NCAA finals. But we haven't seen that from Colton, so I have him getting 7th. 6th place, Isaac Trumbull, NC State. He moved up from 197 to 285. He looks every bit of it. He's a guy who a lot of guys don't shoot on him, kind of like Colton Schultz, because his leg defense, his scrambling is pretty exceptional for the heavyweight class. Really tough from the top position. He can ride and turn. I think I would be pretty surprised to see him off the podium. I think he could be higher than 6, but I think 6 is a pretty safe landing spot for him. Just behind Campbell's Tay Gadiali. Maybe think Tay's better. Maybe it's Trumbull. I don't know. I think these guys could go back and forth. Gadiali really impressed me against Nick Feldman of Ohio State at the All-Star Classic. Good athlete, good upper body. He can ride, counter score. He can generate from his own leg attacks. Very complete wrestler who seems to be getting better every time out. So I have Campbell's Tay Gadiali finishing in 5th behind Nick Feldman. Yes, I know he beat Feldman earlier, but I've got Feldman putting the pieces together and finishing top 4 this year at NCAAs. I think a lot of Nick Feldman. He got injured at Cliff King, Las Vegas. That is a little bit of a concern for me. I think it was a rib issue. Or at least that was the guess just from watching. Don't know for sure. Hopefully he's back before too long. Injuries have been sort of an issue for Nick. But what he can bring to the table from a neutral perspective, leg attacks, he's really, really special there. And I think by the time NCAAs rolls around, he's going to be right there with many of the best guys. But I have him behind 3rd place, Wyatt Hendrickson. Now, this top 3 was really tough for me because if you look at what Wyatt's been doing this year, it's hard to think of him as a 3rd placer. He wrestles like a national champion. But the problem is there's national champions at this weight class, right? And he has not been able to beat them as of yet. So while I think he is a guy who's going to score 20-plus points at the NCAA tournament, that doesn't mean he's going to be a national champion or even necessarily in the NCAA finals. But he's going to do so much damage to the non-national champion wrestlers at this weight class. He's still going to be a big, big story and a big part of the heavyweight class. But I don't see anyone behind him really with a good shot at beating him. I think he's going to dominate everyone else, but it's the 2 guys ahead of him. I'm not sure if he can close that gap. We'll see. 2nd place, I've got the reigning NCAA champion, Greg Kerfleet, finishing in 2nd. And I have him falling to Gable Steveson in the finals. Now, Greg had a great showing last year. He was an undefeated national champion, right? And that's why, you guys watch, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, you watch a lot of Wyatt Hendrickson. It's hard to envision him not in the finals. But Greg's been that good. He's been that guy for a year. He teched Wyatt Hendrickson a year ago. Now, is Wyatt better? Is he healthier? Yes and yes. But Greg is a very difficult guy to score on. He's really good from the top position. And he's so fundamentally sound that I still think he stays ahead of Wyatt Hendrickson. But I don't think he's going to be able to make up the gap against Gable Steveson. And it's not a slight against Greg Kerfleet. It's just that Gable Steveson is the best. And not the best this year. He's maybe the best we've ever seen. He's an Olympic champion. He's the best in the world, right? And so winning an NCAA tournament, this will be his toughest NCAA bracket. No doubt about it. This is the toughest challenge that Gable is going to have faced at the NCAA tournament for him to win a title. But that being said, I think he's going to win. We've seen him. He looks bigger. He's just as fast. He was tipping the scales, I think, at 277. That's like 10, 15 pounds bigger than we had seen him wrestle previously at not just collegiately, but freestyle. He's bigger, but it doesn't show any signs of slowing him down. His lateral movement is insane. You cannot shoot on this man. It's basically a guaranteed 3 points for him. This is his first time wrestling in the 3-point era, so the techs are going to be flying. They have been already. And Gable Steveson, I believe, goes out a national champion for the Golden Gophers, who have a very strong team and led by Gable. I'm not giving, others may be giving Greg or Wyatt a chance. I'm really, while there's always the element of it's wrestling and anything can happen, I really am just not giving anyone a shot. Until I see Gable lose, I will never pick him to lose. I think he's that guy. And that's just not at the NCAA level. That's at the world level, the Olympic level. I think he's better than all these guys. And so I've got Gable Steveson, the national champion at heavyweight. All right, what'd I get wrong? What'd I miss? What are your predictions? Are you giving anyone a shot against the great Gable Steveson? I want to hear from you.